Oh, Smooch. Yeah, Smooch, say that on the podcast. You think I'm perfect?
Are we recording right now?
We're recording, yes.
You're great.
Yeah. Okay, you better put on all the loving you give me off mic on this darn podcast.
We have started, right? Yes. I'm not trying to tell you how to do your job.
Dan, don't you even. It's in the title. I go, Schman is returning, and then it's in the description. People know who you are. Fine.
Let's tell you how this talk show host thing works.
Oh my God, for God's sakes.
My guest today.
We're going to get into that. And if people read the description, for God's sakes. All right, my husband, Dan, a.k.a. Schman, because this is so typical of him. After 5 years on the radio where we used his real name, he came to me and he said, I'm not a public person. I don't really want to be out there in the public. So when Andrea Lopez Comedy co-hosted this show, we did Schmiggy and Schman.
Who could crack that code?
Her boyfriend at the time was Iggy. We called him Schmiggy. And we had Schman. And then we talk about you as Schman, and people love the Schman star.
Well, I'm glad to be back, but when Howard Stern introduces Casey Musgraves today, or Jake Gyllenhaal on Wednesday, not to plug their show, or Jimmy Fallon's hosting so-and-so, it's not like they just don't have a guest appear and they start talking. You introduce, you promote it, you know? I'll give
Robin, okay? Every morning he doesn't say, oh, Robin's back. You know, you're like Bubba Booey. Every time he brings back Bubba Booey, he doesn't. Chris Wilding, who I love, who does the impression of Doctor Now. Not every time he goes, Chris Wilding impressionist.
At least you haven't made me a Whack Pack member, a Frasiac.
Well, my Frasiacs love being Frasiacs, and you are a Frasiac. Oh my God, you're wild about me.
I'm married to it. I guess I'm the original one.
Okay. All right, so we have topics to cover today. We have been watching a documentary called Dynasty about the Patriots
the New England Patriots. Yes.
New England Patriots. We're going to talk about that. Should TikTok be banned? I believe it should, and also the disturbing mother-daughter TikTok account that people are hoping with the ban will finally go away. We'll talk about that. And then we took KJ to the eye doctor, and you did not really get along with her.
Nope.
So I want to know if people think how you reacted was appropriate or inappropriate. Where do you want to start?
You're the host.
Well, I like giving people our hot takes and commentary. So we watched Dynasty about, and I don't know, I guess AI is spying on us because we still have this thumbs up thing I can't seem to get rid of.
Whatever positive affirmation we get.
Somebody on Zoom likes us. So we watched Dynasty. How many parts was it?
10 episodes.
10 episodes on Apple TV about the Patriots dynasty from the early aughts up until Tom Brady left in 2020?
I think it was 19.
Or 2019.
Something around there.
So what did you think overall of this documentary? Would you recommend it?
Yes, I recommend it, but there are some qualifiers.
Okay, tell me.
First off, I think we are in a great era of documentaries.
Oh, the best.
Right. When you look at some of the sports documentaries that have been produced from ESPN 30 for 30. Netflix has one that had they had one about Monte Teo and
excellent, amazing.
Kris Jenner, and the documentaries that are out are phenomenal. And
so good. In fact, as a fair weather sports fan, I'm super into them, and including Jimmy Kimmel. And in collaboration, right, with 30 for 30.
You did one about the Mets.
The Mets.
Yep.
It was so good. It was actually so good. I tweeted Lenny Dykstra when I was on a plane to LA. And then I met Lenny Dykstra for drinks. And then he wanted to come back to my hotel room and do cocaine with me. And that's kind of
see where the night took you. He just wanted to go back and hang out. Yeah.
And he said, no.
I love you, Nails. We love you.
Nails. And then Nails appeared on this podcast and he was very lovely. And he was not forceful, but he just said, I could come back to your room and we could just sit and we could do cocaine.
Perfect gentleman.
Very nice. And I said, Nails, I have to pass. So anyhow, there have been some amazing documentaries. So
Correct.
The point that as a non-sports fan, I enjoy them.
What a lot of these documentaries, and use The Last Dance about Michael Jordan the final season with the Bulls.
So good.
A lot of these stories are being told when they occurred, social media didn't exist.
Right.
So I think access and some of the background was might have been known, but it was not well known, or it was you had to really do some digging. What I find fascinating about the Dynasty documentary is it all kind of occurred during the social media era, and the
Yeah.
so and these are memories that are pretty recent, and you go back and see. So I enjoyed it. It touched on a lot. You probably could have done a 20-part series, given the breadth of that organization. But I enjoyed it. They had access to people, a guy like Ernie Adams, who's, the man behind the curtain for Bill Belichick. The fact that he was so present on it is fascinating. He's the old guy with the mustache.
Yeah.
He drove the
Yeah.
Volvo.
I didn't think it was that great. It's very biased.
Of course it's biased.
And it really doesn't. Bill Belichick reveals absolutely nothing new. In fact, you could probably count on 4 hands how many.
Well, I'm curious, as a casual sports fan, where do you see the bias? Because I have a few.
I don't believe it's, if you are not going to reveal how you truly felt about a person or a situation, or share in depth your side of the situation, you shouldn't be on a documentary.
Wow.
And
Shots
he did
fired.
not get into Deflategate. He refused to go into detail. He did not get into the videotaping controversy. He refused that. He did not get into any detail whatsoever about where the breakdown was with he and Tom. It's so strategically done to, and I love Tom Brady. I'm a huge Tom Brady fan. And when you watch this documentary, it's even more amazing what Tom got done, because they make it sound like Bill Belichick was an absolute tyrant, a douche. Danny Amendola is the most compelling person on this documentary, because Danny Amendola takes a shot at Bob Kraft and Bill Belichick. And Wes Welker is also the other best person on this, because they do touch on, which of course he's dead. So of that, like they dove into Aaron Hernandez.
Yeah.
That part was compelling. And Wes Welker was the most interesting person. And Wes Welker said from the beginning, this kid was mentally ill. He was a nut job.
Mhm.
He would say the most inappropriate sexual things in the locker room. He warned other guys, stay away from this fucking dude. And Bill Belichick thought it was great. And he was the most compelling. They brush over Tom. Tom doesn't say anything about him. I mean, it's just so biased.
Well, I will say this is where I find, so I do not trust you. You have to mistrust any documentary where the producer is also the subject, right? So even with The Last Dance, Michael Jordan is the one who was driving that production. So of course Michael Jordan is going to look good in that. The documentary,
I felt like that Michael Jordan documentary, though. At least it got more into Scottie Pippen,
well, it
and
did.
it got into the
But
gambling.
if you go in, if you hear some of the other players from that era talk outside of that documentary, they have other opinions. So with the Dynasty documentary, Robert Kraft was a producer.
Mm-hmm.
Now he claims that he was a producer because he owns the footage, the background, like, the archival footage, and did not want to give it to Apple to them for them to own. So he became an executive producer, but was hands off with any of the content. I find that to be probably false.
Okay.
Because even though I think Bill Belichick is single-minded as a football coach bent on winning, I think they underplayed some of his success. In one of the last episodes, they talk about the masterclass he had in the Super Bowl against the Rams, how he completely revamped his defense in order to counter that.
Yeah.
There are so many examples of him coaching through those years with the Patriots, like masterclass coaching things. Just recently, like a year or two ago, they were playing against Buffalo in Buffalo, and it was like a snowstorm, and I think they threw the ball 3 times and ran the ball 40 times, and they ended up winning and upsetting the Bills at home. And it was just one of these master classes of coaching. You look at what he's done, you look at his coaching tree, because he's had a lot of assistants who've gone on to be head coaches. They've all failed.
They don't touch on that at all.
And
They don't touch on that at all.
And you look at other coaches, and I think they've had some more success. So in terms of their coaching tree and its branches. So is that a failure in terms of Belichick being able to produce good quality coaches, or does it just show you how good he was in terms of how he managed? I think there were so many other little funny moments that have been that were not included, but I feel like I'll use the Guerrero, Tom Brady's trainer
Oh
being brought
yeah.
on,
I
right?
okay. I liked
So
the Alex
Alex
Guerrero
Guerrero in
stuff.
that story. It was pitched or presented as Tom's got this guy. He's doing wonders for Tom. He's doing wonders for other players, and Belichick doesn't want him around the locker room.
Okay.
Of course, you don't want him around the locker room. He's undermining your staff as like the training staff that you pay millions of dollars to care for the 53 players plus the practice team players. Like, yeah, you don't want competing interest in that. So I get it, but it made it seem like it was out of jealousy, where Tommy needed this and Tommy wanted that. I'm sure the truth is somewhere in between. I mean, Belichick is a madman, but I don't think Brady and Kraft are perfect angels in this either. And this thing about when Belichick would rip Brady during film, well, he rips everyone, and it's important that you show everyone in the locker room that they're part of that they're accountable. So if the moment Tom Brady
Yeah,
gets
they don't
any
touch on that
preferential treatment
too
in
much.
that moment is the moment he stops having the respect of his teammates. So these sort of things, I feel like it was painted toward. Now, again, is Bill Belichick a madman? Yes. But was he that evil, that bad? I don't necessarily think so.
I say skip it unless you're a huge diehard Pats fan. I didn't think it was all that revealing. I really didn't.
Well,
I mean, maybe you thought it
there
was.
was a lot. I
You
enjoyed
thought
it.
it was very genius. Okay, well, but again, I'm a fair weather sports fan, and like I said, I wanted to hear more about, yeah, to your point, more about the genius of Bill Belichick because it's really more about Bill being just so regimented and so difficult that the guys really played for Tom, and then eventually they've all gotten tired of Bill,
Sure.
including Bob Kraft, and so it really doesn't touch on.
Winning cures all ills.
Yeah.
And then once you stop winning, that's it.
Okay. Well, anyway, you can watch it on 10-part series on
Apple TV
Apple
or Apple
TV.
Plus or Apple TV, whatever they call it.
Okay.
now.
I want to talk to Wes Welker or Danny Amendola. I
Let's
feel like
get 'em
they're the
on.
most fascinating. I would love to. Like Wes Welker to me had the most, I thought, to say about all of them.
Mhm.
Anyway, I guess one last thing. Do you think, well, it doesn't really matter, but do you think Bill Belichick will ever get hired again
No.
by another team?
He's too old. And you look at the NFL coaches who are getting hired now, they're all in their 30s and 40s. They're all part of a new generation of coaches.
Yeah, different mindset.
Belichick will have some job offer, like Peyton Manning's trying to get him on his production team.
Oh, that could
If
be
he wants
interesting.
to be a commentator or a pundit, he will have his opportunity to do so.
Well, he's gonna have a lot more personality. I mean, where is it? What
It's there.
It is?
It's there. He just he
Hides it well.
one of the most epic press conferences he had, and I think it was during the Deflategate suspension, was he was being asked questions. The Patriots, but right before Brady came back in, I think it was right around then, were 2-2, and he was getting asked all these questions, and his answers was always, "We're on to Cincinnati."
Oh yeah.
What about this coach? We're on to Cincinnati, and he just kept saying, "We're on to Cincinnati," and it was just, I mean, he was like, I'm not giving you guys anything. But he will, I think if you, I'm sure he would be, you get him talking about something that he's passionate about.
I'm waiting to hear it. I've always been a Belichick fan.
One
I'm ready.
reporter at like a media day asked him about some obscure like punter, and he went on 5 minutes about talking about this punter.
Wow, that would be a riveting conversation
Yeah,
because
well,
you don't
there you
get
go.
that out of him. And you also, it's portrayed in the documentary that Tom Brady did not know about Deflategate. They hold steadfast to that in the doc.
Yeah.
His family does, everyone, that he would not
course.
lie.
Well,
No, I believe it. I feel like Tom Brady is a
every professional athlete is always looking for some level of edge, right? And it might be, when you look at, let's use professional soccer as an example. If I'm defending and I'm pulling on a guy's jersey, that's cheating, right? I'm looking for an edge. One of my coaches growing up taught me how to put my knee into the back of a player's knee to put him on off balance, right? And that's technically illegal. Also taught me how to do a little nut tap on a defender to create separation for the player. My coach was the most penalized player in professional indoor soccer that year. So you learn all these these things to gain edges. Of course, I mean, Brady wasn't sitting there doctoring the ball, but of course he's told the guys, this is what I like, and they're going to go do it. And he was 100% wise not to turn his phone over. That would have been the dumbest thing to do, is because, once that phone is out, it's whatever is on it's going to be leaked. So I don't blame him for not being forthcoming, but come on, Tommy, you're no angel.
Tommy. All right. What do you make of TikTok being banned? A bipartisan ban from our lovely Congress and Senate people. They are all gung-ho on this. Do you think TikTok needs to go away for national security sake?
Just to confirm, it's the House that passed it.
Yes.
Overwhelmingly. And I believe it is now being discussed at the Senate.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks for that clarification.
I read, I get the topics. I want to be an informed guest on the Sarah Fraser Show.
Well, I appreciate it. And that's one of the feedbacks I get.
I get introduced as a guest.
People are like you. Okay.
I believe that social media, this is going to be a hot take, so sit down for this.
Wow.
Social media is equivalent to cigarettes from the 50s, 60s, and 70s in the sense of the harm.
Really?
Yes, the harm that, look at anyone, there are reports, there are studies, there are interviews with so many different individuals who have been involved in social media. There's that one guy, I looked him up. I forgot his name. He's the ginger who used to work for Google, and then he's been on a bunch of documentaries.
Oh, I know exactly who you're talking about.
He's got that weird name.
He's always on Bill Maher. Yeah. I know. He's
how many people do we have to come forward to say social media is tapping into the part of your brain that elicits responses like gambling and addictions and how every now and then Facebook will ping me. Because I use it for work purposes, but I'll get an email or a message. Hey, so-and-so has posted this. And it's like, because they want you to
they're trying to lure you back.
And look. And so, it's the old adage, if it's not or if it's free, then you're the product. So all of these platforms are trying to get us to give them our eyes and ears and attention. So that's the negative thing about social media. There's certainly positive things too, but it's all got to be done with moderation. With TikTok's a problem because it is now you sit down with your conspiracy hat on.
No, put it on because China, it's owned by ByteDance, and ByteDance says that they've taken a ton of precautions to protect I agree. Keep going.
So the TikTok is, I'm sure there are some precautions that are in place, but China's version of TikTok is different than America's version of TikTok.
Correct.
And now also their Chinese government has different, far fewer freedoms afforded to its citizens than the United States. So that might be part of it. But when you look at what the algorithm is feeding people on TikTok, it's feeding the worst things in people.
Yeah, our division.
Yep. So is that designed and intended by China?
Yes.
Well, maybe it is, and that's a problem. If it's not, well, it's still a byproduct of what's happening, and it's catering to the worst parts of our brain and society. So
I'm all for it.
So where people might say this is an issue of freedom of expression, I don't think it is. It's a platform.
They say it's freedom of speech.
I can still do my freedom of speech, but I just don't need to do it through TikTok. I look at it this way, like, look at cigarettes. Should I be able to smoke a cigarette if I want to?
Yeah, you should.
Okay.
If you're over the age of 18, yeah.
All right. Well, fair enough. But what the tobacco industry did or previously did had to be regulated. And I think I look at this the same way with social media. It can still exist, but we have to look at the harm that it's doing. Wow. Yeah, hot take.
What do you make of our representatives and Congress and the Senate cannot get a bill passed for border control?
Don't get me started right now on that.
Well, say what you that's people's point, is like, how is it that they can come together and they can clearly get TikTok banned.
Mhm.
And I mean, I do think people are not realizing the whole national security of this entire thing. I think 100%, even though Shu is the CEO and has been in front of Congress and testified and says, "Oh, no, no, no." I mean, every company is owned by the Chinese government. They have to answer.
Sure.
So I just don't
And
believe for 1 second they're not stealing
well,
and spying.
any data or anything you put out you should just assume someone else has it.
Hmm.
And if we're putting information out through our social media, it's going to be accessible. Why, we have credit card account
Hacks
hacks
or
all the time, right?
compromised all
So
the time. Yeah.
and we refuse to look at lessons learned. So think back to the Sony hack,
Oh,
right?
that was
And
crazy.
and when that occurred, a and I won't say who shared this information with me because I don't know how in depth the conversation was, but someone who I know who was involved in security, computer security, was asked by his boss, "Hey, how could this happen with us, or how concerned should we be?" And he said, all it would take is malicious software on a thumb drive, someone to put the thumb drive in a cafeteria at the office, and someone to be like, "Ooh, free thumb drive," and put it in their computer, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Right. So this sort of stuff is going to happen, and everyone needs to be more cautious. How our Congress and leaders in Washington got together to do it, I think this element is non-political,
Okay.
whereas things like the border, no one wants to give the Republican majority does not want to give President Biden a win before the election. So they will do everything they can because this is an issue they are going to run on.
Okay, so that's why, because that's what people bring up, and they bring up, inflation. They can't seem to do anything about inflation. They can't do anything about the border, and yet, it's insane to buy a house, but yet they can come together on this.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think this is an important issue. However, a lot of people are saying a lot of these House of Representative and Congress people own stock in Meta. Because they're allowed to
Yeah,
own all these
that's
stocks and
true.
do basically insider trading, and well, not
There are
legally,
rules and
but they
regulations,
have.
but they're skirted all the time.
Right, right. And so a lot of people feel like Mark Zuckerberg and some of these other big tech, they're rooting for
Possibly.
this. And these our representatives are making a ton of money by trading stock. But I mean, I guess that's just part of the game, right? It is legal for them
It's
to do
called the
that.
swamp for a reason.
They call it the swamp for a reason. I did. So one of the reasons, though, have you seen this? Did you look at this disturbing Ren and Jacqueline
I
mom
did not.
daughter?
You told me about it, and I did not want to
Okay,
go into
it's
that deep.
so disturbing. So there is this movement on TikTok to have it banned because there is a mom, Ren and Jacqueline is the account. I find it so gross. And she has millions of followers, but she puts her 4-year-old daughter on the videos eating with her mouth open with like dick-shaped items toward her 4-year-old daughter's mouth. She turns the comments off, but she's making thousands of dollars off like almost child like
It's
porn
terrible.
pictures.
This
People are calling for this woman.
she should be, and this is where when one owns a platform, they have to be responsible for the content that is produced on that platform. It's one of the reasons you and I always go back and forth about your boy Joe Rogan, and no free plugs, but he has a big podcast apparently,
I love my
and he
Joe. Yeah.
brings in quacks, and he gives them a platform, and I don't particularly care for it because there is a responsibility when you have a platform, and TikTok is a platform, to regulate what's being put out there, and this sort of thing is disturbing. This individual should have child protective services called on her.
Oh,
Someone
this
should
mom.
smack the crap out of her, because this is awful.
It's so disturbing. In fact, even a former FBI agent has weighed in on the Ren and Jacqueline controversy. Um, it's just, a lot of people are calling for why there does need to be some regulation because this child focused content doesn't belong on social media in any capacity, regardless of the circumstances. The dangers of posting your children on social media. One glaring issue about the family vlogging that is not talked about enough is that it makes children vulnerable to predators. Platforms like YouTube and TikTok are known to have a predator problem. A report from the New York Times found predators would post cryptic comments on family vlogs to alert other predators about the content. Even more disturbing research has found that YouTube algorithm caters to predators, as those searching for sexual content will often be recommended videos of children. Oh my God. It is. Anyway,
I don't think there's much debate here.
I know there's not, but that's one, that video, a lot of people are making videos saying if TikTok is banned and that will shut down this awful mother, then so be it.
Mm-hmm.
But by the way, I do not think that Joe Rogan has quacks on. He has a lot of legitimate people. You just don't know. You've bought into the bananasness of, you want to hear one side only.
Let's stay on the agenda.
You unfortunately you drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Okay. You do. You do. Who cares?
Tune into my podcast.
Well, let's hear it, because if your side is so correct, shouldn't you be willing to debate anyone? Shouldn't you be willing to hear all sides?
No,
if yours
sides
is so right.
But anyways, go on.
Okay. Well, anyway, Joe, I'm looking forward to being on your show, and I hope you come on mine. I love Rogan and Tim Dillon.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's stay on politics and top topics that people are talking about. Bernie Sanders wants to introduce a 4-day work week. I don't even really want to get started on this because it's never going to pass. People that are political experts are saying not even in this lifetime, maybe KJ's generation, but he wants to go down to 32-hour work week.
Mm-hmm.
In other countries, this has been experimented with and does sometimes work. And there are states that are giving companies incentives to have employees work 32-hour work week. What do you think?
I'm all for it. All for it. Workers of the world unite. No,
we're built on capitalism. Like, what do you want? They've raised the minimum wage. I mean, what else do you like? What are you going to get to the point? Small business cannot. It's like, to me, it's like, of course, Jeff Bezos can survive this, but like,
let's talk about let's have some context to this, and that both you and I do not have traditional jobs where we're working 9 to 5 or 8 to 4 Monday.
No, but we have had
it. And there are some jobs where a 32-hour work week will not suffice.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And maybe it's, and you already look at like doctors and nurses, they have different schedules.
Sure.
When we're talking about, I'll use some of my friends who are corporate drones, right? They are working Monday through Friday from 9 to 5 or 8 to 4, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
How much of their time is spent inefficiently?
Well, I can give you Fox 5 as my example.
Sure.
I'm very grateful for my 13 years at Fox 5. I adore them. But when we had to go in before the pandemic, I would do I guess an 8-hour shift because we do podcasts. 4.5 was talking, was gossiping with
people. There are times where it's like, oh, I'm going to go, I'm going to take a 2-hour lunch, or when I worked briefly in politics and it was a quiet time, I went over to my buddy. This was when we actually, my buddy was the photographer in the office, and he had a dark room. And if like we had nothing going on, I just go in the dark room and take a nap. All right. These are, and I was getting paid for it but there was nothing going on. So in that sense, stripping away all of that non-work minutia that people have would make people more efficient, more happy. I think the other thing that's coming, that there are two other factors here. One is now that offices and corporations are trying to get people back in the office. I think this is a pretty fair compromise, because most people, once they started going remote, did not want to go back into the office. So this will help make it a little more flexible. And again, if you have 4 days to get your work done, you get an extra day off, then you're going to be probably more efficient to get your stuff done.
I just think there's so many good companies now that offer amazing perks,
Sure.
offer amazing, I don't know. And to me, it's like small businesses need the option to have people work a 5-day work week, a 4-hour work.
I think if you're working at the flower shop down the street, you might not be putting in 32 hours because you're at sales, or you're working in the stock room. These might not be the jobs that necessarily apply to it.
Why do you think Bernie Sanders is doing this? You have a background in politics. A lot of these senators and stuff, they seem to like sometimes just, I don't know, propose these stupid things. Is there like a mandate they suppose? Well, we live in a capital. I mean,
Bernie Sanders.
I was a Bernie Sanders supporter in 2016 over Hillary Clinton, but now I'm like, I like some of the things, but I mean, he also wants to tax people 50%. It's bananas. I mean, he wants to be a socialist.
Workers' rights have continued to have continued to erode over the last 3 or 4 decades, right? When you look at what union membership was in the 50s and 60s and the gradual recession of those rights. And this is why there are more strikes that take place. This is why you're seeing a resurgence to this, because the unions used to advocate, or the unions had power and would advocate. Now, the unions were also probably corrupt, but they advocated for their workers, and now workers don't have the same unified approach that they did half a century ago. So these are the types of things where people who are quietly quitting, right? This is a response to, hey, I'm being asked to work more. I'm being asked to stay more connected when I'm not on the clock. I think these are all the natural responses. And I love Bernie. He's a whack job in some regards, but
Feel the burn.
but he, capitalism is not a zero-sum game. It's not. We should be adopting a capitalistic approach where rising tides lift all boats. How about that for a rhyme? But I think oftentimes individuals in that lower or middle rungs are being ignored. So
I'm a pro
feel the
union
burn.
gal.
Feel the burn.
I'm a union member.
Mhm.
Thank God for SAG-AFTRA, giving
Yeah.
me so many things over the years.
Absolutely.
I'm 100% grateful for them. But I just think come on, dude.
I'm with you, Burn, on this one at least.
All right. Lastly, we took KJ to the eye doctor, and I'm curious if people have ever experienced this. So we thought KJ in pictures has one eye sometimes that sort of turns in. I thought that KJ has an eye that kind of turns in sometimes in photos. By the way, KJ has an extra tooth in the front, which is very disturbing to me. I'm very upset. A listener noticed that. They were like, I think he has an extra front tooth. Took him to the dentist immediately. They were like, yes, not that uncommon. Hopefully he doesn't have a permanent tooth underneath it and it will fall out as a baby tooth and that's it. Some kids just can have extra teeth, right? Or missing teeth. So anyway, I thought maybe his eye turned in. We take him to an eye specialist here in Beverly Hills, and the woman was a little quirky when we walked in, and she comes right in and she's like, got things in his face. She's trying to look at his eyes. And she says to me, hold him in the chair, hold him, and I'm going to look. And so he's melting down, right? And so you start.
Well, hold on. Here's what. First off, she was 10 or 15 minutes late, which is.
Oh, well, welcome to
don't
Los
get me
Angeles.
started on
How
this.
Bernie Sanders introduced that fucking bill. Make
How about
it
that?
on time in California.
There you go.
This place is atrocious.
You listening, Newsom?
Zero. Yes. Nobody here. I don't give a shit. Everybody is late. Everyone. They don't give a fuck if you're bleeding out. They don't care. Everyone strolls in. Oh, so sorry. And everybody says that to you everywhere you go. I'm so sorry. I'm late.
That's a whole other topic.
Sorry, I'm late.
So anyway, she was late and she has to do a battery of tests on him. And he's melting down, of course. So he's dead. And so I grab him and try to settle him down. She tries to do a test. And so I hand him over to you, and he's melting down. And so I go to reach for him to settle him down because clearly she can't get what she needs out of this. And as I reach, she's standing in front of me. She smacks my hand out of the way.
Smack it. She swatted it. She was pushing down your hand.
It was a heavy swat.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh boy, that fired up.
That. Oof.
Oh boy, that did it.
Because here's so let's play both sides. I understand what she's trying to do. She's trying to get the test done so she can assess what his vision is, right? And I get that. And she's trying to do it as efficiently as possible. She's got a schedule. Clearly she was late, but she's got a schedule to keep. I am trying to settle down a 2.5, 2 3/4-year-old, almost 3-year-old, so that she can actually settle him. She can actually do the tests, get him to quiet down, because believe it or not, parents often know their kids the best. So I know he needs to take a couple deep breaths and settle down. And so she swatted my arm out of the way. I was very unhappy. And At some point, though, I put my
Well, she said, can you, sit down with him, hold him down. And you were like, I need a few minutes, please. I need to calm him down, please.
I didn't say a few minutes. I said, let me try and calm him down.
Yeah, that's what you said.
And
Let
we
me try to
eventually,
calm him down.
I got him a lollipop because, he
likes a root beer lollipop.
So when he's melting down or getting angry, we try and just, change the narrative. So we're trying to weed him off his passy. So when he's screaming for his passy, we try and distract him to something else. And that's what we did. And eventually got him settled down and we worked together, where we were once enemies and adversaries, we worked together for the common good.
When I was holding him, you were standing behind me going, I don't like her.
I don't
like her. I'm
I
like,
don't.
Dan, you can't let's just
Guess who's about to get a 1 star on Google.
Yeah, what we need to get out of her. All right.
Spoiler alert, it's her.
Yeah. Well, it was fine. You ended up handling it well, actually, because you calmed yourself. You didn't tell her off, and we got through the appointment, and he has no eye issue. So I thought you handled it.
Yeah, so we created a level of trauma for our son, trauma for me, all to appease your neuroses.
Well, I think that I do not have neuroses. I think that any parent would want to double check that because I learned this. I did not know this at the eye doctor, but I said to her, well, I don't believe he has any eye issue because he doesn't run into anything. And he seems like he can see just fine. And she said, well, at this age, they can still have some sort of eye stigmatization and they don't run into anything. You can't tell.
Okay. Well, look at that.
So
The more you know.
Well, thank God we stayed for the appointment. You were ready to leave. You were ready to walk away.
No, I was not ready to walk away. I was ready to speak my mind to an individual who was lacking bedside manner.
Okay, well, I'll end the podcast with this because this is the other thing I've noticed about Los Angeles. I actually think here that people respect you when you kind of yell at them a little bit. No, I do. It's like with our IVF clinic. Once I got aggressive with them, then they've gotten it together. Don't you think? I feel like they're very lax here until you go. It's so weird to me. I guess it's a entitled mindset here. But once you throw around your, you're going to do this for me.
Once you go full Karen on them.
But am I wrong?
I don't know.
Once you spoke up a little bit to her, she seemed like she kind of backed right down.
Well,
and it was fine.
Sometimes you have to flex. Show your teeth, whatever it might be. No, I don't know. I have not noticed that, but now that you have brought it up, I will keep my eyes open.
I was trying to think. I feel like there was another example where you did it and they came through. I did it with their IVF clinic. They've come through. Not bad, but I just said, I am extremely frustrated with you all, how you are this is not acceptable. I'm not moving forward until you do X, Y, or Z. And then they did. And they were very, so I don't know.
Maybe they've heard your podcast and like, wow, we don't want to run afoul of this broad. I
never liked it. I don't want to ever do that. People can have bad days, but then there becomes, no problem, a couple mistakes, but then there comes a point of are you fucking with me and being lazy? Yeah. There's no excuse. What's going on here? There
you go.
All right.
Nice work.
As always, you can't follow Schman anywhere. But if you have questions or topics you want us to cover, you can always email the Sarah Fraser Show at gmail.com.
Send them so we can talk about them.
Bye, Schmano.
Bye.
Love you to all.
Oh,
love you to all. Love you.